Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Day 2, Japan. Day 2 was huge. So day 2, we'd kind of all rested our bones. We'd recovered from our very, very minimal hangovers from the day before. We knew that we only had a limited time. We only literally had 1 week in Japan, so we wanted to get through as much of the stuff that we could get through during the day and whatever, and then kind of try and have good nights where we could. A lot of it was dictated by happenstance. So a lot of things just happened to be the way that they were. We did have loose plans for stuff that we wanted to do. We didn't necessarily do all of those, but that didn't necessarily impact. So first things first, head out to the Family Mart, absolutely smash the chicken. We'll be doing some pretty crazy JDM ratios there with some of the crustless sandwiches from 7-Eleven. But the menu diversity at the 7-Elevens, Family Marts and things like that were unbelievable, man. The quality of the food there, all of it is amazing. Back to the OP, day 2, we all jumped in the minivan, did a couple of Family Mart runs on the way there, a million boss coffees. We jumped in the car and we headed out to Tsukuba, which was a bucket list thing for me and a bucket list for a lot of the guys that were out on the trip. This track has such a massive influence on Japanese culture in terms of the automotive culture. It was, it's one of the more renowned time attack tracks. So a lot of fast cars come out of there. A lot of, I suppose, single driver owner teams that do this time attack stuff that really have reputable cars end up coming all the way out to Australia for time attack challenge here. So it is a very influential place. Mostly for me, it was more best motoring, all the reviews and things like that were mostly done at this track. Mostly it was at that track. So I spent 20 years before I actually got out there watching best motoring reviews on the cars there. I think I made a note of it last time around, but basically once you get out there, you realize how small the track is, because it's like ultra fast cars doing it under a minute, right? So you can actually see the main straight in one shot, like in your periphery, start to finish. So it isn't an enormous track, but that has nothing to do with the nostalgia that you feel when you go there, because there's nostalgia, but you've never even been there. It's wild. So Tsukuba was definitely a must. We got out there, and dude, as soon as you pulled in, we hadn't even gotten into the track, and there were some epic things outside. There was a full-blown, 100% aero S14 sitting on the back of a truck. This thing had canards, holes, gaps, aero, everywhere you could possibly look. Obviously, a slightly high budget individual doing time attack stuff, but there was a realm of everything else that was there. Like just next to that S14, there was an FD, again, full aero package, and a lot of that aero stuff, might end up in some of the Stancy cars that are at the shows here, but they're just kind of dress up things, whereas over there it's full function, right? And so, yeah, there was this gorgeous silver FD RX-7 that was out front, full aero canards, and the best executed spoiler I'd ever seen in my life. His spoiler extensions that came off the frame of the car were so perfectly cut into the bodywork that it didn't even make a difference. Like if he wasn't running that spoiler, the car would look ultra clean. And a lot of these guys drive their cars there, man. Aside from that S14, that FD RX-7 that was out there, which had definitely seen track time given all the rubber that was sprayed up the side of it. You see that these cars are being driven there. They are being driven in that spec, and a lot of them are pretty mega low. Yes, they have better roads overall, but they're not tenfold better than our roads. So I guess the Japanese are just a little bit braver with what they have, and I suppose if they break something, they can just buy it locally. And there was an E46 M3 on LMs out the front, perfect fitment, and I bet you that had been doing some track work that day as well. I guess I will pan into the past from the future into me walking into Tsukuba, but there was some pretty amazing things as soon as we walked through the tunnel. Basically a DTM track day, so it was just an open track day in inverted commas, but the theme of it was that they were doing some racing between, I think it was between 10 and 2 or something like that. But it was a DTM day, so there were like a 147, 156, 147, I don't know, something like that. And then there was 3 Cosworth Evos there. And I was so caught up in the Evos, I was like, oh man, these things are amazing. And there was the Cosworth, and there was an Evo 2. And I was so caught up in it that as I was panning around the back of one of them, I noticed it was like an E30 M3 that was right behind it. And there was 2 E30 M3s just behind it. The thing is that, yeah, okay, you might see those cars here, but you don't see them at a track. You don't see them getting used and abused. Abused is probably the wrong word, but used in the sense that in the way they should be. So yeah, it was pretty amazing. Some pretty cool cars out there. A bunch of E36s, a bunch of E46s, which were just kind of entry-level track stuff, which was cool enough because these guys are out there and they're really, really driving the back end out of their cars, which is awesome. A lot of the cool DTM stuff that was there, but that was not the end of it at all. HKS had their GR86 out for testing, so they had their time attack car there. There was a little Wagonar, I believe it was called, that was next to it, which had the most ridiculous aero on it. And then it's just a bunch of nice, cool, clean cars that were there. There was a bunch of Suzuki Ignis Sports there, which was pretty cool to see because it's such an oddball car. Another ultra clean S14, which kind of looked like a street driven / time attack car, and you just kept walking down, and as you walked down the field, there was the likes of like, you know, Fairlady Z's and 34 GTRs, and there were so many nice clean cars there that it was so hard to focus on just one of them. They had different classes during the day, obviously, so there was a number of pretty special cars that were just rolling through. With that Fairlady Z, which, you know, for a lot of people, you just park it up and show it and that would be it, but that car was being driven, and it was being driven hard that day, and it also had like probably the chunkiest cam I've ever heard on any of those motors ever. Like, this thing was barely staying alive. Like, I got a shot of that rolling through as it rolled through in front of a 930 turbo that was just sat there that didn't do any track work that day. But yeah, so it's just so many cars that you're kind of always going left, right, you don't know where to look. The amazing thing is the blend of age of the people that are here. Like, you got kids that are in their 20s all the way through to proper seniors that have been doing this for a really long time and have been enjoying their cars. So it's so refreshing to see different ages and different groups of people getting into different cars while they're there. So there was this white Unos Roadster that was there that was like a full aero. It had like US racing kit all the way through it, wide body, stripped, you know, so like a Vitz RS turbo. Everything from Hachiroku, there was a older fella who was there who saw me filming with the gimbal and everything, and he came over and he grabbed me by the arm and he's like, "Oh, come with me, come with me." I'm sure he was saying that in Japanese or maybe something else. Made his way down the stairs from the grandstand and he goes, "Oh, you got to look at my mate's car." And there was this real beat up Hachiroku, and it obviously had the full kit. It was obviously a potent track car because you'd seen this thing had done like 4,000 laps. It was proper beat up. It was duct tape. There was rock chips all over the front of it, and it was, you know, stripped, and it was just so pure. It was such a visceral time attack car that you could see that the owner had one thing focused, and that was just, yeah, going fast. He was probably well into his 50s. Yeah, man, it was like just every single thing. Like, it went from that to the next car over was like a 996 GT3, and then in front of that with those E30 M3s, and oh man, the variety was crazy. There was a really, really nicely executed time attack style, well, cool style, but it's what it is. A beautiful time attack. It was a blue FD, had all of the bits, had all of the aero, it even had upgraded brakes, which is rare with RX-7. Then it went over to the weighbridge, cheekily got some footage there. I know I'm not allowed, but I couldn't help myself, and I did do it subtly, and just got some footage of the cars coming out of the weighbridge and going into the weighbridge. There was another silver Unos Roadster that had period correct 3-piece wheels, like no different in terms of its appearance to my car in terms of the modifications that were done externally, so no crazy aero. It did have a front bar on it, but nothing crazy, and that was going into the weighbridge at the same time as that Fairlady. And I did get a shot of this blue 32 GTR that was coming out on white T37, and I don't know why it caught my eye, but it turns out that everything happens for a reason, and that'll come up in a later episode. So yeah, Tsukuba was amazing. That was in itself a whole experience, and being able to watch cars out there on the track was pretty cool. We raided the merchandise store and we cleaned them up, which was, I mean, maybe for whoever came after us probably wasn't great, but it did warm my heart to see all the boys when we went in there and we just cleaned them up, and there was no question of pricing, there was no nothing. We just went in there and we did our bit to support a track from, you know, the other side of the world that has given so much to us in terms of everybody's experience with that track is different, and you know, that track is pretty special to me, just from, you know, Gran Turismo, best motoring, you know, maybe not so much, like, I'm not actually a huge time attack guy, but I can appreciate the sport for what it is and the development of the cars that do that. But you know, either way, it was a really important experience for us to get out there. So to be able to support them was, yeah, priceless to us. So yeah, we got everything from shirts, jumpers, stickers. And now in hindsight, obviously having gone through and looking at the time that this has been recording for, it probably makes sense to make this its own episode because I think it deserves it. There's enough B-roll. So I think what I will do is this will be day 2 part 1, because obviously it was quite a special experience. So I might just leave it at that. I will go on to what happened for the rest of the day, which in its own right was a wild day too. So day 2 part 1 of Japan done. Thank you so much for watching this far. I know that these are a little bit long in the tooth, but hopefully I've got enough B-roll and not too much face of the camera, because I know it does your head in. But thank you again for watching. We appreciate you guys supporting us, commenters, non-commenters, likers, non-likers, whatever. As long as you're giving us the views, as long as you're giving us the time and having some insight into how we did Japan, hopefully some of these things will help you when you go to Japan. And if they did, comment below and let us know what your favorite car of the day was, or any questions that you might have, because these can be tricky. Like getting out to the track can be tricky without a rental car. So like, comment, subscribe, do all of that. We appreciate you. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you on part 2, day 2, part 2. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you.